Everybody, thanks for tuning into this evening's video. Just want to have a very quick look at the 12 o'clock runs for next week, because I did the 5-day forecast earlier on today. Please catch that if you're interested in the weather for the next coming period. But I said in the 5-day forecast that Monday's weather was too uncertain really to predict, and going beyond that into next week, very, very uncertain. So I thought we'd have a quick look at the 12 o'clock runs, the latest runs for all model, to see what they're showing up for the start of next week. So we're going to start with the GFS for Sunday 13th of January. We're going to have a cold weekend. That is pretty much locked in now. I think we are going to have a cold weekend, and there is going to be some snow around over the weekend as well. If you want more detail on that, check out the 5-day forecast. But this is the chart for Sunday, and we've got this area of high pressure bridging across northern parts, going to bring in this easterly wind, could be bringing in snow showers across the east parts of the country with that. Now what the GFS wants to do this evening is build high pressure in across the country early next week. So we've still got a legacy of cold air for the start of next week. Probably having some really hard frost with this area of high pressure. But notice this low pressure going to the north, that high pressure up to the north of Scandinavia, and we begin to bring in a more southwesterly flow around the top of that high pressure going into the middle of next week. We find that high pressure collapsing southwards and bring up this much milder southwesterly wind across the country. So this suggests that the cold ends early next week and bring a much milder push of air across the country through the middle of next week. But do the other models agree? Well, this is the ECMWF model for Sunday, and again it's very similar up to Sunday. We've got this area of low pressure to the southeast of the country. We're ridging in high pressure, not as strongly, but still got a bit of a ridge here coming across the country. It's got a generally easterly flow, quite slack. And keep an eye on this area of low pressure around Iceland. This becomes important through Monday, because that starts to dive southwards across the country. That's the low pressure that was going to the north of the country on the GFS. Well, the ECMWF wants to take that low pressure across the country, and that's got some very cold air still associated with it, so that low pressure would be bringing us outbreaks of snow across many parts of the country on Monday, if that's right. But more importantly, perhaps for the general pattern next week, is that low pressure then sets up to the south of the country, and instead of bringing in a southwesterly flow across the British Isles early next week, we bring in this much colder easterly flow. And if we go on, it may have updated, I'm not sure if it will be updated yet for the next period. No, it hasn't updated yet, but anyway, this will be setting in a cold easterly flow through the middle of next week. Not a southwesterly, but an easterly, very cold setup that is from the ECMWF this evening, with high pressure blocking to the north, low pressure to the south. Bitterly cold will be taking snow across the country on Monday, and then setting up that easterly wind. What about the UK Met Office model? Well, that's showing that for Sunday. Again, we've got this ridge here across the country with an easterly wind in the south going further on into the start of next week. There's the trigger low pressure that the ECMWF brings down across the country. What does the Met Office do with it? Well, what does the Met Office do with it? Well, it actually takes it down through the North Sea, so this will be probably bringing snow to eastern parts of the country. But notice we've got this ridge building through the west of the country. Very cold northerly wind here, not an easterly but a northerly on the UK Met Office, suggesting that the cold with this blocking feature in the Atlantic will go on for quite some time. And finally, the Canadian model, the GM, this is from MeteoSeal. Those other websites, other charts are from the website weathercentral.de. This is from the website MeteoSeal. Both websites can be found on my links page. This is the situation for Sunday again. The low pressure to the south, the ridge across the north of the country bringing in this easterly wind. What happens as we go beyond that? Well, there's the low pressure, the trigger low pressure coming down from Iceland. It actually ends up very similar to the ECMWF, with that low pressure coming down across the country, and we eventually pull in this bitterly cold easterly wind with the low pressure to the south. So again, this suggests snow coming down across the country on Monday, and then beyond that we set up a very, very cold easterly wind. So you have to say the GFS, with its idea of the collapsing high pressure and then a milder push through the middle of next week, is pretty isolated this evening. Many of the models suggesting that the cold will continue into next week. In fact, it could intensify after a snowy Monday. We may see some very, very cold weather later on next week. I'll be keeping you updated, obviously, about this, so keep coming back, keep checking back to the website, gavsweathervids.com. I'll be updating all the time with all the latest developments. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.